Are you in float too, or?
Yeah, I'm in the new winter wonderland right
Oh,
now.
nice,
Oh,
nice.
nice, nice. Are you liking it? The
Well,
yellow.
I think it's cool. I like the delicate colors, the ambiance. I really like this.
Awesome.
Nice.
This is an interesting structure that I can't. I'm trying to figure out what it's made of. I love that float. I get surprised even though I'm building this.
Yeah.
So, um, so yeah, like I said, I'll just repeat it because now it's recording. Um, the way we're doing this is me and Nathan are going to host. We're gonna have a topic, and so for each one of these conversations, we have a topic and that we usually start with, but don't stay with because it's a free flow conversation. And anybody and everybody who wants to participate is very, very welcome to just jump in. No rhyme or reason. Can be chaotic. It's fine. This is part of just the
The-
DNA of float. Things just happen.
I
cool.
like
So today's topic is reset. Just because we're resetting this experience, this float together uh, habit,
I like
and
it.
yeah, and so yeah, I don't know what is reset for you, Nathan.
It's an interesting question. So, I keep trying to reset float at the moment because I'm like not convinced this is the way Imagine is supposed to look for me right now. But then I'm like sort of like this is acceptance as well. So resetting and acceptance, I guess. But yeah, for me, I think reset reset has been kind of a ongoing theme for me. I'm always sort of I move a lot as a digital nomad. I land in a new country, in a new city, in a new apartment frequently, even when I'm in the same country. And so it's almost like you have to like reset yourself, like expectations, realign where things are at. Like, okay, this is where this is where I leave my keys, or this is what I do. This is why I do my thing. And so I think there's a large scale of reset there. It's like resetting on the larger scale. Oftentimes is like starting over completely, restarting your computer so it works correctly or whatever. And then on the smaller scale, I think it's just like resetting expectations. You're resetting your thinking on stuff. So, which may be small, but maybe hard. Maybe difficult.
Yeah, I like that.
Yep. Yep.
I'm having a lot of conversations lately about because we've been here in Vancouver for a good while now,
Yeah.
and there's a feeling of yeah, we wanna reset, we wanna start over somewhere, and there's always a price for
Hmm.
that, right?
Yeah.
And so there's an interesting sort of tension between I want to reset, but also I am aware of um, how much effort and time and money that costs every time.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go with that. I mean, for me, with making decisions, like we're in an apartment right now that we like. It's a really nice apartment. There's a lot of things we like about it, but for us, sometimes just booking a new apartment, it means like exploring the city in a completely different way. Like even if you're just two streets over, all of a sudden, what's right next door is different. Your walking path is different, and you start to experience it all over again for the first time. And so, in the mindfulness or like meditation space, like this idea of beginner's mind, or even just in martial arts or in training, like looking at something again from a new perspective. Like when you start, you're around beginners, it's sort of like a refreshing way to see this, see the activity again, because like new people, I think this is true about float as well. Like I love seeing when people post in the community, like, oh, today was my first float and I really love this, and like I've used it for this reason or that reason, and you're like, oh wow, that's cool. Like just to see how someone like experiencing it again for the first time has this like newness and freshness about it. And the beginner's mind, I think, is very much like that. Like if you can put yourself in the place of like experiencing it again for the first time, it's such an experience. It's such an interesting experience, you know. Kind of like what you were saying earlier, Doran, was like even though you make float and you're working on float, because of how float works and it's so generative, like it creates unique combinations that you wouldn't even expect or didn't even plan, and so you get to experience it for the first time again, almost like in a different way. So
Yeah. There's also some stuff that's kind of rare, like these bubbles. I don't know if if you know, you probably can't see it because you're in your own floating, but we had some bubbles, and that is something I haven't seen for a while. So that's like, oh, yeah, there's this thing I remember.
Yeah, I've seen some new stuff in my floats recently. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, if you feel anyone who feels comfortable and wants to say, here's my name and you know a few words about who you are, feel free, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so my name is Denise, and I'm in Quebec.
Oh,
Nice.
And I'm a very empath person, sensitive, energy feeling person. And I lived a lot of stuff in my life, like everybody else, I imagine. And at a certain point in my life, we were talking about reset.
Right.
At a certain point in my life, I realized that all this, how can I say that? I'm used to speaking in French, so it's a little bit more difficult sometimes for me to find my words.
You're doing great.
That's
all
fair.
right. So I realized that I've passed my life just thinking about others and trying to please everybody. And living all this intimidation and stuff like that. And even as a grown woman, I mean, it still happens to me. So for the past 5 years, I decided to like put everything aside, everybody aside, just be by myself, reset my mind, my heart, my life. And I started seeking for nice things to help me to relax, and then I found this Float app.
Nice.
I tried it out and it was like, wow, and it really makes me feel good. I know I don't come that often as I should, but when I come, it really helps me out, and especially since you guys started doing that affirmation thing. And it really helps me concentrate on the present moment and just feel myself, feel my heart, my thoughts. And that's about it. I'm growing each day inside of me. And I'm placing a lot of nice people in my life, even if they're online or around me in my town. I'm just resetting all the time. It feels good.
That's great.
I love that.
Awesome.
I'll go.
All right.
My name is Karen, and I am in New Mexico. I'm a widow of just over 2 years now. Prior to that, I had a very, very stressful life because for the last 13 years of my marriage, my husband was severely disabled from Guillain-Barré. So he was in an electric wheelchair and then pretty much bedridden for the last 8 months of his life. So I dealt with tons and tons and tons of stress and didn't have much opportunity to try to decompress. So after his passing the first year, I was pretty much a mess. And started looking for ways to try to deal with the stress, not just from being a caregiver for all that time, but PTSD, obsessive compulsive, you name it, I had it. And then I had been wanting to check out VR, and And so I finally did that in November. And then shortly after that, I found Float. And it has helped me reset my mental attitude. It's helped reset my expectations. One of the things that I try to do, not just for calming relaxation, which I do enjoy, because I love doing screen captures and then doing photo editing on them, but I try to make it part of my nightly sleep routine because I have insomnia too. And Float really with the binaural beats and the music helps me with that.
For sure. Amazing.
That's
great.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. And
I love your screenshots too, by the way. Now that I know it's you, you posted in the Facebook group. I love that.
Yeah, they are nice.
Yeah, I love your captures.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Just thought I'd say hi. I live on the Isle of Skye. Which is
wow.
Yeah, it's in Scotland. We don't get out much here. So I got a VR headset October last year, and it's just been amazing. I absolutely love the Oculus. I meditate daily anyway, and I was looking for some beautiful, nice apps and came across Float. Absolutely love it. I love mandala guys, I'm afraid. Just love it.
I love it.
It's amazing. It's just stunning, and it just gets better and better. And I was gonna put something up saying, "Oh my god, this is getting better and better." But do you know what? I asked about the gong sounds and like going through a sound bath, and I think that's kind of come up a bit more. I can hear the sounds a bit more now. It's great. I really, really love it. We have a lot of sound baths here on Skye, and it's really beautiful. So yeah, thanks very much for that. So I can also travel around in my Oculus without actually having to leave the island, which is kind of institutionalized, but it's so beautiful here. But thanks very much for enhancing my life.
It is, yeah. I lived in Edinburgh for like half a year or so, and I really wanted to visit the Isle of Skye.
Did you get over, Dora?
I didn't end up being able to do that, but yeah.
Wow, I want to go
one
there
day,
badly.
One day. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's just we're very popular nowadays, and our infrastructure's kind of not really geared up for loads and loads of tourists. So we'll see how it all pans out. We've got single track roads, and it can be quite difficult for some people to drive on, but it is a beautiful place, that's for sure. Yeah.
And that's in Scotland?
Yeah, it's northwest.
Do you know Millie from Generalist World?
No.
No? Okay. She lives there too. I'll have to send you her info. She's pretty amazing. She's working on a project called Generalist World for like a lot of people that kind of feel they don't fit in the traditional career path of like being a specialist. And she's on the Isle of Skye running a startup from there. So it's pretty interesting.
Is she? Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Yeah, that would be fantastic. I'd love you to hook us up.
Yeah, I'll do that for sure.
Thanks ever so much, Ron. That'd be brilliant.
Wow. I'm so far away.
Where is everybody, by the way? Which area of Float did you pick for this?
I'm still in Winter Wonderland right now.
Okay.
I also chose Imagine when you chose it. I figured that felt like the right place to go for me too.
Doing the energy light tunnels.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
Very different vibe for the conversation. I love that. Are we talking too slow for the energy one? We gotta talk fast. No, I'm just joking.
No, not really, because it's surprising. The faster energy one seems to help my brain slow down.
I love it. It sounds like an ADHD brain kind of scenario where stimulants actually help. You would think it would be something to help slow someone down, but it's actually often a stimulant that helps people with ADHD, to be more focused. So.
Yeah.
That's I've said a few times now that Float can almost be a diagnostic tool if I'm not saying anything about you. Just in general, we noticed that when some people really relax and energize, and some people can't be there. And those people
Yeah.
who relax and energize, sometimes they like relax, but sometimes they can't be in relax because it's too understimulating for them, and that creates anxiety. So if you're a person like that, most people who say that they have ADHD. So it's like almost a diagnostic tool.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The binaural beats. What does that do? How can I see the difference? And I just don't understand the binaural beats. I played with it a little bit, but I don't seem to realize what's the difference.
So, Nathan, do you want to explain this?
Sure.
I could, but I think
I can do that. So I mean, in Float specifically, there's a slider for binaural beats. You can turn it up, and you might not hear anything audible, but you can, like, if you listen closely, you probably will hear a bit of an audible sound there. But generally speaking, the concept is that there's a tone in the left ear and another tone in the right ear that's slightly different, and your brain tries to synchronize those tones in a way that causes your brain to go in certain brain states or certain brain waves.
Okay.
And so conceptually, that's what it's for. Like, a lot of people use it for focus, for relaxing, and there's different tones. And from what I remember from talking to some of the team, that like when you're in relax and you turn up the binaural beats, it's actually binaural beats that are meant to put you in a relaxed state. And if you're in energized, the binaural beats are intended to get you into a more energized or more focused state or whatever. And so the goal, if you want to learn more about binaural beats, I think the Centerpoint Institute has a lot of good information on it. But it's been around since, I think it's like the 70s or maybe the 50s or something, when it was discovered that this idea of like just slightly different tone in one ear versus the other causes the brain to think it's the same sound and try to synchronize it. And so in that process, it creates this state in the brain. So I don't know if that makes sense, if that explains it well enough for you, but
yeah, it does. Does it make is it like waves coming through my brain, or?
It is, yeah. It's what you will hear when you turn it up, and especially if you really want to kind of hear it, just
turn the audio down a little bit too, the music down, right?
Yeah, turn the music down all the way, and then you'll hear it's like a sort of hum.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'll check that out.
Theoretically, you don't need to hear the sound to benefit from it, because a lot of the techniques that use it, they put it underneath other sounds like crystal balls or water or whatever, because it's a subconscious thing. Like you don't actually need to hear it for you to benefit from it, as long as your brain is hearing it, right? So it doesn't have to be audible, but your brain will pick up on these waves in the background. It's almost like a vibration in a sense, you know.
All right, I'll try that out. Now that I know a little bit more,
sure,
I'll try it out.
But yeah, it makes me think that we should send an email with that information. And a lot of people were also asking what specifically the frequencies are and so on. So I think we can do a bit of a deep dive into that.
That would be nice. I'd like that.
Yeah, maybe even just like something in the app when you turn it on for the first time, like the binaurals, maybe it explains, how it works or whatever.
Maybe.
That's pretty cool.
And then also I'll add also that with Float, even like each world and each piece of music specifically has its own binaural beats, because the idea is like Nathan said, we don't want it to stand out. We want it to be transparent for you. You just put it on and you get the benefit, but you get to just listen to the music. So we really made an effort to combine it with the music in a good way.
That's cool.
Cool. That's great.
Are you going to, do you think you'll ever look at Schumann frequency with Float at all?
What again?
The Schumann, it's like Schumann frequencies. They're different frequencies. Have you looked into that at all?
I've never heard of that.
I'm familiar
Ah.
with it, but I never thought about it with float either. Like that's interesting. Schumann resonance, right? Like
Yeah,
there's
Schumann resonance. There's different frequencies for different kind of healing, I suppose. It might be really, really complicated. There's a lot of frequencies.
yeah.
Would I would
Like
I be right to say that
Sorry.
somebody on the page of Float on Facebook wrote something about that? I think. Did anybody else see that?
Yes,
No, I didn't see
they
it.
wrote about several different frequencies that gear into certain things like healing
Yeah.
or different stuff.
I use a lot of these on YouTube myself too, like the frequency. There's a lot of frequency recordings on YouTube, and sometimes I know I saw somebody post in Float recently too that they use their own music, but then they use Float, and so like that could be another way to kind of try using those with Float until maybe it's integrated into it. But you could potentially play your own music, then use the Float at the same time. That was really weird. Right as I was talking to you, I came up to like a precipice or like the edge of the cliff, and then off into some blue sky area. But I almost had the sense that I was being launched into it. So I was like a really weird, like right as I was talking, almost like I was being launched into the deep here or something. It was really interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting.
That's cool.
Where's Mandala Guy?
So
There's one thing I haven't quite figured out exactly what it does because I've tried, but I can't tell the difference, and that's the level of ambience.
So that depends on where you are. So if you are, for example, in the Winter Wonderland, again, if you remove the music completely, you'll hear a lot of ambience around you. It's not quiet. And then you can kind of lower it if you want less of that, or if you just want to hear the music. And then once we add some creature sounds and things like that, it'll all be controlled through that. So all the sort of the environment sounds, but not everything has it. So some places.
I just tried it.
Ambience.
I just tried what you suggested just now. So I turned down the music all the way. I turned the ambience way up, and I turned the binaural beats off. And wow, there's a lot of in the Imagine world, anyways. There was a lot of sounds. It's pretty cool.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'll try it.
Yep, right now.
And mine almost sounds like I'm underwater, and there's like wave sounds, and yeah, that's kind of cool.
It's I find that it's a very different experience. There's also some ambience in the mandalas.
Okay.
Or I think it's both in the mandalas and the mandala jais. Definitely in mandala jais. If you turn off the music and you do the mandala jais thing, it really has a different feel to it. It's just this almost more hypnotizing kind of thing. Try it. It's speaking of resets.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Actually, I just reset my whole setup and by putting all the audio down and turning up the ambiance. And now, like this, you're right. Imagine is completely different now. Like I literally feel like I'm kind of floating under the ocean more than I did previously, because I hear like all the ocean sounds and I see the fish, like the rock fish swimming around. Wow, it's such a different experience just by changing the sound.
Yeah, and you can hear sometimes some of the rocks are creaking and all that.
Oh yeah.
So here's an interesting concept, which I'm not exactly sure if it's connected to reset, but we might be able to connect it. Which is you just got you just remove the component.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like you discovered more. So by removing something, all of a sudden you got something more.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing to think about as a way of, the way we live life, and so much of the time we want more, and we want to have that and that and that and that, But anybody who ever decluttered a room, and threw a bunch of stuff or moved, we talked about moving to a different city or a different country,
Yeah.
and you do that, and you throw out a ton of stuff or you give it away, and you feel physically lighter all of a sudden,
Yeah.
and it just adds a lot to just have less stuff.
That is very interesting. I agree with you on that. I found this experience when I started going more minimal, like when I got down to just one backpack. Like a lot of people think like, oh my God, I could never do that and whatever, but it's very freeing, and it's very similar to this experience. Like I took away a bunch of things, but yet the experience feels like even better maybe, or maybe it's just different at this point, but it does feel really interesting to hear like just floating through the sounds as opposed to floating through the music. It's
Yeah.
such a different experience. So it is a form of reset, like you're saying, like even if it's just resetting your perspective or resetting your settings, like in this case. Yeah, it's really cool.
Very different. I'm in Mandela Jais right now, and I turned off the voice and everything, just the ambiance, and it's great.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's another
I did
reset.
that, and I did the Mandela like you, and then now I'm in the one that I think Nathan is in with the oceans.
Yep.
And
It's crazy. I'm in Imagine right now, and I'm going through like a tunnel, like a tunnel of rocks where like there's two big high edges on where I'm at, and it feels like a wind tunnel. Like the wind is going past me, my ears on both sides, and I never would have heard that if I was playing the music. So that's very interesting. I really felt like I was in like a wind tunnel or like in a cave kind of thing.
Yeah,
cool.
I tried that too a few seconds ago.
Yeah, amazing.
Really cool.
Yeah, in general, I'm a kind of a visual guy. I've been an artist all my life, and I often find that even though I know in my brain, also I've directed a lot of films and animation, so I do know in my conscious mind that music and sound are super important, but I tend to really lean on visuals. But then every time, Matt, the musician and audio guy in Float, every time he brings something new to the table, or he made some changes in the audio, it really, really changes the way you feel. It's a very strong part of who we are, of how we
That's true.
the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I used to use the Muse headband, and I found it so interesting. Like I hope at some point this will be something Float can do, or like we can connect sensors or something. But like it was so interesting to me because what it would do is it would connect to your heart rate, and it would speed the music up if your heart rate sped up, and it would slow the music down if your heart rate slowed down. And like that was such a intuitive, or sort of like a intuitive way to learn how to slow your heart rate down, because you would take a deep breath and you'd let it out slowly, and you could hear your heart rate slow down because the drums would slow down. And then if you took a breath in a way that actually increased your heart rate, you'd hear it go the drums start to go faster. And it was like, so then you would just kind of work on it, like, okay, breathing out slower, okay, that slows the drums down more. Breathing in slower slows the drums down more. Okay, and just keep working on it, and slowly over time, like I could get the drums slowed down very quickly. Like I didn't need to take 5 breaths to get my heart rate to slow down. And so I think like you said, I mean, the music does impact the experience, but also that ability to dynamically engage with the music might even take it another step further,
Yeah. With Float, I think we want to take it a bit, one step further, because this is such a generative experience, so we have that flexibility. So what we want to do is, once we connect it to your heart rate or whatever it is, Muse, Apple Watch, whatever it is, the actual experience will change itself in real
time. That would be amazing.
Where you want to go. So if you go like, I want to go to sleep, for example, we know that your heart rate needs to be this and that. And then the app would really sort of work to change itself until you get to that heart rate, and then it would stay on that.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
It'd be really interesting too, because in another one of the apps with the Muse headband was the birds chirping. Like when your brain state got to a state that the brain sensing headband could recognize that you're in a relaxed state, birds would start chirping. So it's kind of like a verbal, like a audible indicator that you're in a good, like you're getting your brain into the state you wanted to get it into. And yeah, that would be so amazing if it was connected to Float in a way where like the whatever's happening in the visual space could change based on how your brain state is or something. There's a lot of interesting things there.
Yeah, because the whole sort of idea, if you will, behind Float is just be, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to not, for once not give you instructions. We always get instructions all the time, like to that. Even when we go and we want to play a game, there's like this quest and that quest, and then you want to meditate, and then they tell you have to breathe that way, do this thing. And so what we want to do is to just kind of like, hey, you want to relax, just stay here for a bit. Well, we got you. You don't have to work.
It's very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. What else do we want to bring up in terms of reset? Any interesting ideas or stories?
I was just thinking about how there's some kinds of resets that we don't like, like we didn't talk about that, but you get fired from a job or something, or you lose a project, or like somebody passes away, like somebody mentioned here in the conversation. Like there's certain things that are resetting, and maybe in good ways and also in negative ways, but in some senses we judge them whether they're good or bad based on how we feel about them. But they can also be good resets, sometimes as well, because it forces us into a new experience or into a new space. And so like we don't necessarily have to judge it as good or bad, but like there are some resets we don't like, right? Like when we get I mean, this is a common one in the tech space. People get fired or let go, all of a sudden you're like a free floating, like this rock that's floating past me right now. Like you no longer have a job, you no longer tethered to certain things. You've got to figure out what's next.
Very, very, very good point.
That's not always easy.
No.
Yeah, it's not. But you're right that sometimes it's, sometimes it is. I mean, we don't have to sugarcoat anything. I mean, sometimes in life there is a reset that is forced upon you, and it's not good. But many times it is. Many times it kicks you out, like you say, it kicks you out of the comfort zone. So I can tell two stories actually. One is when COVID started, and I wrote a book called Workflow, which was published a couple of years before COVID, and I was trying so it was published. I decided to take the time to really push it and sort of do lectures and things like that, and that was just before COVID. So of course, and I was just getting some traction, and then the whole thing collapsed because of COVID, and then also my relationship at that time came to an end after 11 years, and at the same time as well, so I didn't have the business, I didn't have a job, I didn't have the relationship, and all my friends sort of disappeared because COVID, and we couldn't meet each other, and so on. So I really kind of felt like, okay, there's nothing, like everything I've built for 20 or 30 years is just gone. And then I had that thought of, but you know what? All the Lego, it's like I built something from Lego pieces for 20 years. And then it all got shuttered. But you know what? I have those Lego pieces. I still have all of them. Yeah. That's my knowledge. That's my experience. That's my connections. That's all of that stuff is still there. And I'm free now to build something new and amazing out of that, all of that stuff that I have. And float in many ways is the result of that. I just kind of.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
very interesting. The that I mean that's a good example. I mean, you had almost like everything. Like you had every one of those things we talked about around pretty much, like losing those things and then like reshaping that. And there's a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck, and she talks about fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And I think in that moment, I think that really defines like what happens for people. I mean, we go through we have a certain amount of mourning or a certain amount of grieving that we need to do. I mean, it's natural, you're going to feel a certain way, but at some point, that sort of happiness set point and that growth mindset comes into play to move into a space of like, I'm going to make the most of this situation, or I'm going to try again. I'm going to get back on the horse, proverbial horse, I guess, in that sense. Very interesting.
Yes.
And then the second story I wanted to tell about reset, and that actually appears in my book there, in Workflow, was so there was this super tight deadline that I had to meet, and I was working on something. Really hard, and I had to deliver it the next day. At the end of the day. So I come in, I remember it's Friday, I come in at 7 a.m. To do the thing. And after 3 hours, right, it's 10 a.m. now, the software crashes. It was, I think, on the game Hitman. The software crashes, and it crashes while I was saving the file. So the file is now gone. There's nothing there.
Oh gosh.
So it's basically everything I did between 7 a.m., getting up early in the morning specifically for that, and 10 a.m. is now gone. I can still go to what was there yesterday, but I don't have the last 3 hours, and that's a crazy deadline situation that I'm in.
Oh my God.
So I have to, but I have no choice, right? I have to deliver this by the end of the day. Whatever it is, whatever I succeed in doing, I have to deliver. So I worked on it. And what ended up happening is at the end of the day, I actually got further than I would have if it didn't happen. And the reason is that it became the first 3 hours, which was kind of like, it was a complicated thing with lots of graphs and things and animation. And I just, as you do it, it kind of gets complicated. But once I've done it, the 3 hours, when I restarted it, I already knew what I was doing. I did and the thing became a lot less complicated and a lot less confusing. And so actually in an hour, I was in the same place that took me 3 hours before, but also it was a lot cleaner and a lot more easy to move forward.
Oh,
so that was pretty crazy. That reset, that was very bad, but ended up to be a positive, weirdly.
Nice. That's also a very hard thing to do. I mean, in my opinion, like when I lose something that I've been working on for like hours, like to just regroup and start doing it again is often very difficult. I find like I've been writing like a message to someone on my phone, and then something happens, like phone crashes or like some other app pops up on top and somehow you lose it. And it's like, I find that always the hardest point for me to restart, because it's like, I feel like I already did the work and I feel almost like some sort of injustice has happened, and it's like, I almost want to just like, sit there and cry about it, or sort of like, have the right to whine about it or complain. But, maybe the deadline helped in that case, like where you're just like, I got to do this, it's got to get done. But yeah, I mean, that's hard to do. So, I mean, props to you for like staying with it and doing it. But you're right, it is another form of reset that we didn't necessarily ask for. Like the computer decided to reset on you.
it definitely helped. That was it was a job that needed to be done. If it was just me, myself, and I just doing my own project, man, I can't tell you that I would have done it. Probably gonna, I'm not doing this.
The interesting thing too is for you recognizing that it came out better because of the crash, because you lost the stuff and you had to go back and do it. Because maybe you would have been happy with where you ended up, but because you had to do it again, where you ended up the second time was closer to where you wanted to be or something. You know, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think what it taught me in terms of the creative process, which was what the book was about, is is to do it on purpose, to just say, what, I have a day, why don't I take the first 2 hours to rehearse? And and a lot of people after this, when I was doing that, thought I was completely crazy, or not, like just playing around for 2 hours out of the day, like 20% out of the job. I'm not doing the job. I'm just playing with it, and I'm just doing something that I know I'm going to restart after that. And people thought I was crazy, but it worked. It works. But I think it can be implemented in other areas as well. Like sometimes it's good to do the thing before you do the thing, and let yourself fail and know that you're going to fail, and be okay with that, because that's the whole purpose. I'm just rehearsing this, and then do it.
Yeah, maybe lowering the bar in some way also helps too, because you're like sometimes I think the practice shot, like you're like, I'm going to take a practice shot, and you make it, and then you go to take the real one and you miss it. Like it's the pressure is off on it or something in some way. Something you were saying reminded me of what's her name? The Morning Pages, the Artist's Way, the Artist's Way book, and she has this like process where she encourages stream of consciousness writing in the morning for like 3 pages of stream of consciousness writing, and you don't look back at it, you don't plan on using it for anything. The idea is that you just dump everything, whatever's on your mind, onto the page for like those 3 pages, and then the goal is not to, like we like you said earlier, like we rarely do anything with that intention to not use it, like to not be productive or not to be repurposed in some way. And a lot of the like top creatives or people that we look up to as far as like artists and musicians and painters and writers, they a lot of them use this process of just like the creative the Morning Pages or like the Artist's Way. And I think in some way it's not unlike your experience of what happened. Like you worked for 3 hours on something, lost that thing, but you gained the like the feeling or the benefit of dumping all those thoughts out or feelings or whatever into something that got lost, but you could still then go on to do what you're doing. So in some way that disposable nature of like dumping what's on your mind or brainstorming or exploring is really useful. And from a reset perspective, like I do find like when I do the Morning Pages that it is sort of a reset, because I'm clearing out all the clutter in my mind, putting it on the page, and then walking away from it, and then never looking at that page again, potentially. I mean, I will say sometimes I don't follow that rule, and I'll go back and find something from my notes because I'm like, oh, I really thought that was interesting. But in general, I've got pages and pages of these Morning Pages that I never go back and look at. But that was essentially cobwebs or something in my brain. I feel like, like it's like I've cleaned it out, and now my brain is in a clearer state to go on with the day and do what I need to do,
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like a declutter process, right?
Yeah. There's a guy like Muji who's he's like a guru. He's from the UK actually, but he now has a place in Portugal, I think, that he invites people to come out to and seek after these ways of doing things. And one of the things that he talks about is like leaving it outside the door. He's like, whatever those things are, leave them outside the door. You can pick them back up again later if you want to, but you probably don't want to. So you go in with this idea, like I'm leaving, like almost like you take your shoes off and put them outside the door. It's like drop all these thoughts, all this thinking, and go in for like meditation, and go in for like the clear moments. And then when you come back out, if you choose to pick those things back up, you can. And I kind of feel like that's an interesting idea too, like resetting for the moment, like almost like a conscious reset. Like you go in, drop everything, and then decide if you want to pick stuff back up or not. Like it's not like a complete reset necessarily, but it's a temporary reset or a temporary clearing potentially.
It's interesting how a lot of the things that we are talking about today with regards to reset, but even just sort of in the natural flow of the conversation, has to do with declutter and minimalism and getting rid of things. Even the audio thing that happened when you got rid of music and you found the ambience, like and I, again, to come back to reset, often when I feel the brain fog, and I'm sort of like, what am I doing? My first line of defense actually is to tidy my desk, get some negative space, just remove all the chaos, and also close all the tabs that are often opened on my browser. And those two things, it's just amazing how they reset my mind, and like, okay, I can now think clearly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Okay, guys, have you ever had, I'm trying to do this, a phone-free day? Should we do it? No VR, no nothing for a day. I mean, it's crazy that, it's crazy that we don't, isn't it? I mean, I'm living on an island, for goodness sake. I could easily do it, but I'm like, oh, what if somebody tries to ring me, if my mother's okay, blah, 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 it's just not
true.
I do it sometimes for a big chunk of the day. Like there's some Saturdays where my wife and I will do this. She also likes to do like a no talking day, like where we actually do like depends on the day, but almost like a morning, either like sunrise or sunset, where we just don't talk. Like we just hang out, we're around each other together, but we don't talk. We just do our own thing, and it's super interesting because to notice how much we rely on it. But like the digital detox sort of thing you're talking about, there's I think it's Digital Minimalism, the book, but I think a lot of people talk about this idea, and I do think it's pretty weird. Like sometimes it's hard for me to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, partially because I'm a community builder, and like a lot of times there's like things that might happen in the community that I want to be aware of and monitor and like jump in for. Like today, somebody posts some like scandalous posts across all the comments in the group, and like if no one was monitoring the group, that would have been sitting there for people to see for hours and hours or whatever. But at the same time, like my wife will also say like if we turn off the phone for 2 hours, like what's the worst thing that can happen? And then the funniest thing was like the one time that we did that, I turned it off for a couple hours for something happened during that time that was like a big opportunity for me, and we both laughed at how like hilarious it was that like we tried to do it, and it was like one of those times where there's this big post going to happen, my photo is going to be in it if I was available to be there to get in a photo for that during that time. And so it ended up working out in the end. So I think the logic is like it's okay to turn your phone off, because like later in that day I ended up finding another opportunity where they decided to jump in and do the photo together. But it was like a good laugh for us that I turned my phone off for 2 hours and something happened that actually was big. But yeah, I think like I do love the idea of like, I would say if you don't feel like you can do it, try mini versions of that. Like Tim Ferriss from the 4-Hour Work Week would talk about mini retirements. The idea that you go away for a couple days as a mini experiment of retiring or whatever, or like digital nomad life like I'm doing. But like if you can turn your phone off when you can, like my wife has asked me to do that because like when we're together, she kind of wants to have that space together. And so usually on Sundays we go for buffet together, and I put the phone on Do Not Disturb and put it away or hang it up. And it means a lot to her that I'm willing to do that, because like it is a distraction, and somebody with ADHD like myself, like every vibration, every little ping, what's that? What's going on? So I have to put it on Do Not Disturb, otherwise I'll just pick it up before I even realize that it's in my hand in front of my face. So.
Yeah, that's great that you're doing that. I did a Vipassana course, 10 days silence.
Oh, nice.
I don't know whether anybody's ever done one, but it's whoa.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, oh my God.
It's a lot. I've done a few days, and I think I really want to do a 10-day one, but it's also hard to carving that 10 days out, right? Especially when you have business and clients and everything. But the the other thing I've seen, speaking of Vipassana, is have you seen the dark ones where people are like basically putting on a blackout mask for like 2 days or something like that, multiple days, and then
No, so very sensory deprived completely.
yes, 100%. It's amazing to see how when they come out, they're like often super emotional, like so many feelings, re-entering the world in, being in the dark for multiple days. I mean, obviously, from some things like the prison systems, like use solitary confinement and darkness as a punishment, but going into that intentionally yourself and like it makes you look inward and it makes you process a lot of things and it makes you realize how much we rely on that connection to our visual space. So if you haven't seen it, looking up on Instagram, it's really interesting to watch people with that experience.
I would actually I would argue that float is a little bit of that for me.
Yeah.
I mean, when I need to deprive, like it's like a light version where you don't deprive yourself entirely, but you are in this sort of minimalistic space, and it's intentionally minimalistic like that.
Sure.
And it is that. And even when I go to nature, like actual nature, not VR, which I do a lot, it's kind of that. It's like
we should do a float-a-thon, like where you got to float for 3 days, 2 days straight, and you can't do anything else, just floating.
Yeah, let's do that. That'd be great.
24-hour float, like you're just in float for 24 hours.
Mind you, my headset started getting really, really hot. I tried to switch it off, and it was really bad. There was a problem with the Oculus Quest 3 headsets, and they said, "Oh my God, take it outside, leave it," because it wouldn't turn off.
Oh.
Put it in the snow.
Yeah.
I'm going to sign off. I've got somewhere to go, guys.
Okay, see you. Have a good
Great
one.
to meet you. Bye.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Bye.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye. I do think, Doran, like you said, the deprivation part, or even just the control of your sensory experience, like being able to control it and put it in a controlled environment, is a real benefit of float. Like just like putting yourself in a space where you can feel like you're relaxed, in a relaxing space, even if you're not. Like you could be in the busiest space ever, but you wouldn't know it as soon as you put float on. You're in a. I think it's amazing. Like also this expansiveness. The thing that I've always loved about float is, especially Imagine, when I put it on, I could be in a small little room, but I feel like I'm in this massive world, massive space. And just, I think that's part of why Imagine like opens my mind up so much, is because it's like wherever I look, like there's no end to it. It just goes forever, right?
I did it on a plane one time, and it was really great. Like you feel like you're floating through the sky, you hear the airplane, and you're floating, but you're alone, nobody's there, and then you take it off, and it's such a shock. Such a shock. Oh yeah, I'm in this cramped place.
You're like, that is one of the jarring things about VR. Like when you do get immersed so much into that space and you take it off too quickly, it's like you need a re-entry period where you like close your eyes maybe and breathe a little bit and then take it off, because it's like, especially if you're on a plane with a whole bunch of people and you forget about it and you're like, it's like surprise.
Not a bad idea, by the way, to close your eyes for a bit and then take it off.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Guys, we're an hour in, and
already
we usually close this with a bit of a guided float from Nathan. So Nathan, if you feel like it. Yeah.
I'd be happy to do it.
You want to send us?
Yeah, it's great. I love this.
So I would recommend, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I would recommend going into what do you think? Imagine or mandalas, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I'm down for whatever. Like I think Imagine works.
Let's do Imagine, and then we're all in Imagine, and we can sort of know that we were sort of in the same mood for this.
All right.
And then and then when you're over there in Imagine, let us know, and then I'll kind of know when to get started.
Yeah.
Which Imagine are we choosing here?
Any of them, doesn't matter. You can take all of them, right? It's
in my mind, I wasn't even thinking about multiple Imagines either. I just like pick whatever floats, whatever happens. But now that you said that, I forgot you can switch it around.
Yeah, I clicked on both three down there, so.
Great.
Maybe I'll do the same. Let's see.
So they're gonna combine everything together, I suppose.
It strings them together, so you kind of go between the worlds.
Okay.
Sounds good. I'm gonna turn my music up a little bit just so I have a little bit of music to guide me as well. Okay. All right. Is everybody over in Imagine who wants to be
Yep,
there? Or
good.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll do the music thing as well.
Okay. All right. Well, I like to usually just start with a nice deep breath, and what I've learned is that the slower, the better, and you can make a really slow in breath and try to make the out breath even slower if you can. No pressure at all, just slow as you can. And if you breathe out with your mouth, like you can exhale a little bit more and get relaxed even more. And so when you're ready, you can take another one of those deep breaths in really slow and out really slowly. You might even notice like how that changed your float experience already. And as you're sitting, maybe you can, or standing or laying down, whatever you're doing, I guess. Maybe let's look off into the distance as far as you can see in your float right now, and pick an object and just watch it as it floats kind of towards you. It may not get all the way to you before we switch, but you can kind of see how you're getting closer to it, you're moving towards it. Maybe it's changing as it comes closer to you. It's getting more color, getting more shapes, more detail. And then as it's still floating towards you, or maybe it's floating past you, you can widen your view to sort of take in the whole space, not just that one thing. And almost like see how far your peripheral vision can go and reach, but not in a straining or stretching way, but just kind of like notice how far it goes. Notice how things are still passing, you're floating into them. And now if you want, you can just blink a little bit and notice, and then don't take any specific focus. Just sit and let it happen. And if an object is coming directly at you, just notice how that feels as the object comes straight at you. Do you feel sort of anxious about how it's going to hit you, or are you curious about where you're going to end up, or do you not think about it at all, really? And now, just for fun, if you'd like to, if this doesn't make you dizzy or anything, you can try turning around. If your chair will let you or anything like that, you can turn around backwards and look at as everything floats away from you. You can also reset that with the controller if you want as well. And as it's floating away from you, maybe for fun, you can take something, maybe a thought or feeling or whatever it is, and kind of picture yourself placing it on one of these things that's floating past you and letting it float off into the distance. It might be an annoying thought, it might be a frustrating thing, it could be just a thought, no real meaning, but just put it there and let it float away. And as that thought gets further and further away, like, how do you feel? Maybe take a deep breath and just, when you breathe out, it's floating further away. And then if you want, we can come back around slowly And you can see as things are floating past you sideways. And then you're going to come back around to the front. And we can just sit for a second. And if you want to, for fun, you can imagine something that you're looking forward to that you would like to be in your life, good thoughts, and put them on an object up there in front of you and let them come towards you, almost like picturing that thing happening for you, that reality is coming true. Or maybe it's money, just for fun. Watching the money coming to you. And how do you feel when that thing you're waiting for is coming? Like, do you feel patient? You're waiting for it to come. Do you feel a little anxious about it getting here faster? Or can you feel more patient about it coming towards you? Maybe it's going to miss you because you thought it was going to come towards you, but it's going over your head or something. And how funny is that, or how annoying is that? Like, no, come over here. And now I'll give you the freedom to do whatever you want. Do you want to try another experiment for yourself, or do you want to just sit and enjoy the last couple of minutes here? Couple seconds, I guess. And going back to the reset feeling, how did it feel to try all those experiments and then just sit? It totally changes the experience of sitting, I feel like, after doing it. Doran, whenever you want to take it away, I think I'm done. And thank you, everybody, for floating with us.
Thank you for all of this. It was great.
Amazing.
Nathan, for the guided float. It always impresses me how really good I feel after that, and I love this idea of seeing the thing I want, coming towards me. And it actually, to your question, it made me feel relaxed. Like, yeah, give it time. It's coming. It'll be there.
Yeah, nice. Confidence.
Very cool.
So, guys, I hope we gave you a good nice reset for the week to come. And
thank you. That was great.
Yes, thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you too.
Thanks for putting it together, Doran. This is great.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
See you next time.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Cheers.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.